Right now you're checking out Linear Boxing TV with Bertie. Don't miss it, the man is fantastic.
Steve Bird, Linear Boxing TV, happily joined by Ben Harmsworth.
Hello Steve.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks Steve, very good.
First time in Guilford City Gym?
That's not mine. Your first time here, yeah, very welcome, nice to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Firstly, you're an inspector for British Border Control.
I am, yeah, I've been doing that about 5 years, inspector, and quite often a standing area rep as well.
Can you just explain that for us then? What does that entail?
So inspector, you're an official, so you basically, it's a little bit like the fourth official at football, something like that. So we have to do check weighs when boxers have got title fights coming up. We have to weigh them 3 days before and 10 days before and a month before. We do the weigh-ins on the day. Basically we run the shows, we do all the paperwork, all that sort of thing. If there's a title fight, you get an inspector assigned to a corner to look at, and you stay with the boxers almost all night, check the hand wraps, check the gloves are on properly, check there's no funny business going on in the corners. Got into it. I didn't really even know the role existed, and then I've been involved in boxing all my life. And a friend of mine, Lewis Byrne, a former boxer who was an inspector, was stepping down to become a trainer manager, and he put me forwards for it, and I'm doing it ever since. Really enjoy it. Yes, had some great nights. Things that you'd never believe I'd be doing. I looked after Klitschko when he came over to box Joshua at Wembley. Walked out, did the ring walk with him in front of 90,000 people. It's incredible, really. Stood on the apron, looking over his shoulder into Joshua's eyes. He was worried by me, I think.
I tell you, as a boxing fan like yourself as well, you cannot pay for stuff like that.
You really can't. And it's a serious job. We're there to do a job, and we have to do it seriously. But as a fan, you can't pay for it, and as a coach, it's invaluable experience for me. I'm always learning. I'm an amateur coach. You can't be a pro coach and a pro official, but I'm an amateur coach. But you get to work with some of the best coaches in the world, and you just pick up little things all the time.
So you're watching them all the time as well. Yeah,
exactly. And you're learning, even when you don't realise you're learning things and picking things up. It's good. I enjoy it.
What kind of experience was that at Wembley though with Klitschko?
It was amazing. I was there for hours in the changing room with them, and a very, very experienced team, of course.
Do they conduct themselves as well as they come across as well? So professional and so...
Now that they've retired, I can talk about that. But we're completely, obviously as board officials, we're completely impartial. But very, very, very professional. And it was great to watch, because obviously they're Emmanuel Stewart's old team. So to see a team like that working at that higher standard was fantastic. Really, really good. Both brothers were there. Vladimir was very, very professional, quiet, focused in the zone. Vitaly was a little bit intimidating at first, but I think that's just the way he is. When he realised he wasn't intimidating me, he was just very, very professional to deal with. It was a pleasure to be at that level. Yeah,
and those Kronk's gyms fights, it's Banks, wasn't it, that was training for that fight?
Exactly.
So,
and that was an interesting experience. I was watching the pad work during the warm-up. A lot of he was doing pad work as part of the warm-up, obviously. And being an ex-fighter himself, he was very mobile. Yeah. So there was none of this standing still, fancy Mayweather type nonsense. Yeah. He was moving around the ring, very realistic. Not the ring, the room. Moving around the room, very realistic. It was great. It was great to watch, actually. Fantastic.
Yeah, you can't pay for it. And also, you said you've been to so many events. I quickly brought this up with you before. You're in everything now. You're in an IFL TV video that's been viewed 11 million times.
Yeah, 13. I checked. After you told me, I checked. 13 million times. Yeah. A little bit demeaning, really. Looking at Dave Allen's pants.
I don't know who's watching that time and time again. I've only watched it 45 times.
Yeah.
No, it's a great experience. So you've just had Guilford's dinner show.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
How did that go?
very well. So I'm primarily I'm a amateur coach, a coach at Guilford City. Have been a coach for 16 years. I'm also now the chairman, the treasurer. I do the matchmaking and organise a lot of the shows. And that was our first dinner show in the town for nearly 25 years. In fact, I think I boxed on the previous one, the one before that. And the main reason for that is it's very difficult to put a dinner show on. It takes an awful lot of organisation, and you need a venue. And we struggled for venues. We used to have an old civic hall in Guilford Town Centre. It was an old concert hall. It was affordable, perfect venue for boxing. A lot of the local clubs used to have their shows there, and that's been knocked down and rebuilt as a fancy new venue, which is great, but it's not affordable for boxing clubs now. But we managed to get a new venue, Mandalay Hotel in the town centre, which you were there, and we're really pleased with the venue. It worked very well for us on the day. A few teething problems, a few things we've learned for next year. Mainly we'll deal with the walk-up tickets a bit better and that sort of thing, but that's just a learning curve. Show made a bit of money, got our rent up to date, to the point now actually where we're just in the process of renewing the lease on the gym for another 5 years. So all really positive actually, and the boxers loved it. Boxers absolutely loved the venue. It was, we tried very hard to make it a bit special for them, and having you there filming and all that sort of thing was great. And I think it felt like a bit like a pro show for them. A little bit special as a one-off event.
And also as well, just the standard of boxing as well. Just obviously when you go to actually the brass tacks of it, standard boxing was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Some of the lads there. Really, for me, I was just videoing it, but it was just nice, just actually watching such high standard, and some of these guys coming through,
very good standard, and that went down. I think that was very much appreciated on the night. But you watch a lot of amateur boxing as well. I see you around all the shows, and that's one of the things amateur boxing really has going for it, particularly if you get to elite level, is that it's a live contest. Both guys are trying to, or not that pros don't try to win, but it's not a one-sided contest. You've got two guys in there with good, evenly matched, even records, very close on weight, both trying to win that contest. So you do get very live contests.
And that's especially the same as with the pro shows. When you go to some of these smaller old shows, there's always the A side and the B side. Yeah. That's very, very evident in some of the fights. And some of those, they're so, like, some of the decisions are just razor tight, aren't they? Just
in the amateurs,
it's like
we found that on Saturday.
Just about
and last week.
Can you bring up Saturday for me? Explain that.
Saturday. Well, so on Saturday we had the first round of it's the old ABA Championship, which for a long time was called the England Boxing Elite Championship. This season they've changed it to the National Amateur Championship. So they're trying to rebrand it. Yeah. I just going off on a slight tangent. A few weeks ago, I was working as an inspector at the Queensbury Frank Warren show at the Albert Hall. What a fantastic venue! First time I've been there, amazing venue. I was blown away by it. And people were talking about how we used to have the ABA finals there, not just the national ones, the London ABA finals there. So it just shows how we slipped a little bit, and that was filmed and shown live on the BBC. Yeah. So we slipped a bit in the nation's consciousness. So they're rebranding, trying to push that away. So Saturday you were there. We had the first round of the of that championship, and we had our Alfie Winter in the welterweight under 69s. He boxed Sonny Parkinson from Hillcrest. Fantastic contest. That's the third time they've boxed this season. All really close, very good contest. Two top boys. Alfie lost a split decision. I felt he'd won it. I really felt he'd won it. It's you can all have different opinions. I thought he'd done enough to win it. I thought he lost the first round. I thought he won the next two fairly clearly. Unfortunately, he broke his nose in the first round. Accidental head clash. So there's a lot of claret all over his vest and all that sort of thing. You wonder how much judges get influenced by that. It's a difficult job judging anyway, and it's only my opinion, but I thought he won it.
I'll go on from that. I'm completely impartial as well, because I've never seen these two guys. Obviously, I've got no affiliation with anyone. And exactly the same. I thought he lost the first round, but then the last two rounds, just on work rate alone, and just clean punches. Yeah. he won that. But obviously, and I said this to you before, obviously the nose break, it looks so much worse than it is with the blood, and then you automatically look at them both and who's won that fight. And
Alfie was really disappointed afterwards, but I think, you know, that's boxing, especially amateur boxing. There's no shame in it. It was a very good contest. Sonny Parkinson's a very good boxer, good and a good man as well. Good man, lovely team. I know he's coached Tiny very well. Tiny from Hillcrest, really well. Good people, and we wish them all the best. But I thought as well he coped very well. Alfie coped very well with the broken nose. He broke his nose really early, and it didn't affect him too much.
And that's a testament to him. When you're fighting a boxer as good as that. Yeah. You can go into your show a little bit and get stopped, but obviously he's got to take all positives from that to get a nose break. That's just boxing. It's like to fight a fighter at that level.
It's very fine lines as well. It's very fine line, and as you said, we were chatting off camera earlier. The elite amateurs at that level these days, they're like mini pros. They're doing three threes. It's gone back to the old 10-point must scoring system, which I really like. Yeah. A lot of people don't like it in amateur boxing. We have endless boring conversations about it. But I really like the 10-point must. I'm not convinced that it's being scored quite right at the moment, but I think that will get better. And ultimately, I think that's where Alfie will be going. He'll be turning pro at some point in the next couple of seasons, I would imagine. It's only 21. Yeah. Only 21. And the week on the dinner show, it's on your channel. People can have a look at it. He won the Southern Counties Challenge belt.
What a fight that was.
Amazing contest. Amazing, wasn't it?
What a fight that was.
Against Eunice Batty from Brighton and Hove.
I'll put a link into the actual thing for that.
Oh, good.
That is an absolutely cracking fight. If you're a boxing enthusiast, just have a watch of that.
I was really proud of that contest. We had that as our top of the bill. Yeah. So brilliant contest to have on a dinner show, and it's a great thing. England boxing bringing these belts back. So Southern Counties have always maintained this. So you've got the national championships, which comes around once a season, but also they have a challenge belt. So it's an actual lovely belt that they win and they can keep. And at the moment it's only seniors, but they're going to bring it in for youths again this season, very soon, I believe. So the way it works is that you have a champion, and you can make a challenge to the champion. If the Southern Counties okay your challenge, you've got 28 days to arrange the contest. So it keeps these seniors active all year. You can have some fantastic 3-3-minute round bouts like that. You can put it on dinner shows. You can put it on a club show, and it's fighting back against white collar.
And it's generating that interest as well, that buzz and that challenge.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said. I was just so proud of that contest. I thought it was fantastic. I had someone actually, 2 or 3 people were actually, I don't know how truthful this was, but they told me it was the best amateur contest they'd seen live. And it was good. It was really good.
I mean, you've got people like Colin there as well, absolute legend of the game, clapping and applauding it. Yes. That's just...
Exactly. Yeah.
Really, really good standard. You've gone on from mini pros. Let's talk about the programme now. The people coming out of Guilford.
Coming out of Guilford, I don't have a huge amount to do with that because I'm an amateur coach here, and obviously with my pro stuff, I'm an official, so I don't get involved in it. Yeah. Who's boxing out here? George Lamport's a very good boxer out here.
Yeah. Ches
just turned pro. He's one to watch. He'll be one to watch going forwards. He was serving. I think it's the only serving British soldier to actually be able to turn professional. I think the army have relaxed the rules to allow him to turn professional. He's the current elite England boxing elite heavyweight champion. So he's turned pro as a cruiserweight. And our paths don't cross that much because obviously he trains during the day with the pros when I'm not here. Had his first pro contest 2-3 weeks ago.
That's right, the O2 on the Eubank Junior undercard. He really jumped in head first there, didn't he?
Good place to start. Good place to start at the O2, exactly.
Not doing things by half.
And I can't remember his opponent, but don't mean to be disrespectful, can't remember his name, but
he was
what a challenger he was.
He was a mixed martial artist and
came to fight.
Listen, I hate this term. Like people say, "Oh, you're fighting a bum. You're fighting." And for me, there's no bums in boxing. There's no such thing. Getting in the ring. But this guy was an elite level mixed martial art fighter, and obviously he's knocked out plenty of people. So I don't think I think he had like 3 fights. but he can punch.
He came to win.
He
He came to win, and he was still trying to knock Ches out in the fourth round. Bit of a baptism of fire there, that one was.
So you've just renewed the lease at Guilford?
We're just about to renew it. We've agreed terms. The Guilford Borough Council have been very good to us, give us really good terms on the gym. We could do with more room.
Yeah.
We're talking to them about that, trying to negotiate more room. We have 6 days a week boxers in here. Amateurs, the pros come in as well, but mainly it's as an amateur boxing club. A minimum 2 sessions a day. We can have, on a Tuesday night, I'll have a junior session with 40 juniors in here. And it's hard work in this little space. Yeah. We make it work, we've always made it work. Yeah. But if we had more room, we could cater for 50 or 60. We could do it. You just got to be organised and pair them up and work out what you're doing. Then they finish and the seniors come in, we can have another 30 in. So and we can have, with the pros, not far short of 100 people at a night through the door. Yeah. 5 or 6 nights a week. So going from strength to strength, really. Boxing's thriving, isn't it?
It really is. Thriving. And just going on from that as well, can you just explain to people that just to support your local boxers, because the amount of effort and time, especially from yourself, trainers and fighters travelling up and down the country.
We need help, and it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money. It costs a lot to run a club. I mean, we need 15 to 20 grand a year just to stand still as a boxing club, which we fund largely ourselves through subs and they pay every time they come. They pay a small membership, but we can't charge much. It's a poor man's sport, isn't it? When we don't, the last thing we want to do is turn anyone away because they can't afford it. So we always come to little private agreements with people and what have you. But yeah, travelling. I mean, we're out every weekend. And we're not paid. We're amateur coaches. None of us are paid. We do it because we love it. We do it because people did it for us when we were boxers. And it's got to be a passion. We talked about that earlier. You have to be passionate about it. You don't make money, you lose money. And most pro coaches lose money. It's just an expensive hobby for them. So we've got a sponsor. We've got Davis Property Services come in this year. They help us with day-to-day stuff. It'd be really nice if we could get some sponsors for our shows. And if you can't sponsor it, just come along. Please come along. Just pay on the door. We have the dinner show is going to be a once a year thing, but we put 5 open shows on last season. It's quite a lot for any club, that 5 shows. Most of those lose money. Most of those lose a couple of £100. It costs us sort of 12.5 to 1,500 quid to put an open show on by the time we've hired a ring, paid the doctor expenses, all that sort of thing. So the more people we get through the door, and it's a good afternoon. It is a good afternoon. As we said earlier, very well contested, evenly matched bouts. And you can follow these local boxers through their career. You can follow them through. We've got a guy, Joel Bartel, at the moment, 16 years old. Definitely one to watch. He's been training with me for 2.5 years. He had 2 bouts in his first season, just towards the end of the season, and this is his second full season now. He won the England Boxing Development Championship earlier in the season, lost in the final of the National Association of Boys and Girls Clubs up in York against the boxer from 10 miles up the road with all local judges. I'll leave that to you. I'll just leave that there. I'll leave that one there. And he lost a close one in the quarterfinals of the Youth Championships, boxing a year up. So next season hopefully will be his season. He's on the England Boxing Development pathway. But he's boxed on every single one of these little open shows we've had. I'm pointing behind me in the hall next door, not this ring, in the hall next door. He's boxed in every one, and people have been able to follow his career. Yeah. And I've no doubt he'll turn pro eventually and push on. So yes, support your local clubs. And
that's the thing, you could be walking next to greatness, can't you? I was at the Haringey Cup chatting to Anthony Yard saying you're going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it takes like 3 or 4 years, and you watch these guys. Yeah. You go and watch one of these local shows, and you can say, I was there when he fought.
Yes, and boxers are accessible as well, all the way from that level right through to the top level. They're not like footballers hidden behind 40 bodyguards, because I suppose because they're prima donnas. I was going to say because they have to be, but they're not. They're prima donnas.
So I'm a Palace fan, so
you don't know about football.
I can't argue with that.
Nah.
You're West Ham though.
Yeah,
so.
Same thing really, same problem. Yeah, go and support them.
And like I say, when I'm interviewing boxers, they're the most honest.
Yeah.
There's no, like, you get in a ring, you're laying your soul basically, aren't you? It's a life lesson.
Absolutely, yeah. There's nowhere to hide. You put your heart and soul to get there. All the hard work that goes on behind closed doors and out on the road for decades to get to that point, and there's nowhere to hide, and that's you, yeah. And they're very honest, yeah. And they're not quite so polished. They don't have all the media training. They're not quite so polished. What
you see is what you get.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you get involved in boxing? So obviously you box. Can you explain a little bit about that?
How did I get involved? I've been a fan of boxing all my life. Far back as I can remember. I was obsessed with it as a kid. And both my granddads were big boxing fans, and I remember sat around their house watching boxing with them. They're both actually from travelling backgrounds. So I wasn't brought up in that community, but parts of it, traditions of things stay with you, I suppose. So that was always there. And I started training as an amateur, boxed for Dorking with Peter Matthews, rest in peace. And then I gave up, I packed up when all my contests were as a senior, and I got married, had kids, and I just couldn't make it work. You couldn't put people don't quite appreciate the amount of time, even as an amateur boxer, you have to put into it. It's almost like a professional in any other sport. So I had to give up competing, and I went off and did a little bit of kickboxing, strangely for some reason for a couple of years. Couldn't keep going. And then as the kids got a little bit older, I bumped into a chap called Wayne Johnson, who was running Guilford City at the time. Bumped into him at work, and he recognised me, remembered me boxing. And at that time they had a load of juniors and 2 or 3 no-bout seniors, that was it. And he was looking for someone to come and spar with him. He didn't tell me that at the time. He said, why don't you come down to the club, do a bit of training? Because I only lived up the road. And after he'd asked me about 4 or 5 times, he planted a seed. And so I came down, not here, to the old gym, which was basically a shed, the other end of the town. And I was struggling. Two sessions in, I was struggling with the fitness. I couldn't do a ton up properly at the end. I was doing like a half a ton up, things like that. And Wayne walked into the gym one night with a trainer there, and he said, how's Ben getting on? This is in front of the whole gym full of people. And he said, yeah, he's struggling with a ton up. And he said, have you had him sparring yet? I was thinking, I'll leave it out, will you? Anyway, in front of everyone this is. And he said, oh, you should do it. You'll bring these boys on. And I was thinking, I can't say no now. So they then asked me in front of everyone. And I thought, I really don't want to, but can't say no. Got back into it, enjoyed it a bit. Did sort of 6 months of that. And I started getting funny ideas about making a comeback. And I remember going to, I was about 27, 28 at the time. Went to watch, one of the boys had their debut up at Earlsfield, and they have the shows. I don't know if you've ever been there. They have shows in the club. Yeah. Done a fantastic old venue. Yeah. And I'll never forget getting there early and walking into the changing room where they were weighing in, and you could smell it. As soon as you walked in, you could smell sweat and wet leather and blood and what have you. And there were boys walking around getting ready to weigh in and everything. And I got the butterflies in my stomach. And I actually thought instead of thinking, I don't need this, I thought, I wish I was involved again. So I said to Wayne Johnson, I said, how about, what do you think about me having a medical again? And I think he was trying to tell me something. So he said, have you ever thought about coaching?
That's a polite way of just saying, no, mate.
Forget that. I've seen you sparring, I was wrong. So I started the next night. Basically, that was 16 years ago. Started coaching, and it's taken over my life really. And it's and I love it. You've got to love it. It's hard work at times, but it's very rewarding.
The rewards you can't pay for, can you?
No, you can't. No, you really can't.
And the lows are bad when you've got a wrong decision, or you've got a lad obviously disappointed.
And you have to learn to live with that, but that's a life lesson anyway, isn't it? Even for the boxers, that's a life lesson.
And the way you bring on your lads as well, I've got to bring this point. There was one lad that lost on the dinner show, forgive me, I can't remember his name, but he got stopped. He was absolutely devastated. Yeah.
Yeah.
punched but then he had a quick word and he went up to the other boxer, showed him respect.
Off.
But the way he just clicked straight out, that's just a life lesson, and you learn so much from that.
Definitely, and that's not us, that's every amateur boxing club. It's all about respect. They have to, you get young kids coming here, young boys, and a lot of them are, it's a stereotype, but we get all types. We get kids who are doing very well at school, but a lot of boys will come in who are having trouble at school, some with learning difficulties, autism, that sort of thing. Yeah. And the boxing gym's a different environment for them, and it's tough to get through that door the first time. But it's about respect, and there's people, and they've got a lot of role models here. So they've got boys 2 or 3 years older than them who they really look up to, who they see at school, who are now suddenly saying hello to them and looking after them, that sort of thing, mates. They've got the seniors, they've got the pros here, and they learn and they see how people are behaving. And it's all about discipline. We've got a rule here: when they come in, they have to come and shake our hand when they leave, and even just that interaction with adults that they don't get on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of these kids are going to school where they're no good, and they're always in trouble. They're always being told, you're no good at this, you're no good at that. And suddenly they might find something they're half decent at. They're getting a bit of praise and they're getting respect off their peers, off their peer group. And they don't have kids that are getting in a bit of fights and stuff outside. Suddenly they don't have to prove themselves anymore because they're doing that here 2 or 3 times a week. And people are looking up to them. And the more you do with stuff like this, with the filming, and the more we can do with our shows, and they become a little well known around the area for the right reasons. So I think it's fantastic for that sort of thing.
I couldn't agree with that more, because when you come into a boxing gym, and I've seen it so much, you've got nothing to prove to anyone. No. And especially a place like this, watching Guilford sort of grow, success breeds success.
Absolutely,
you've got young lads coming in thinking exactly like that. I want to be like this guy. I want to be him. I could be. Yeah. And then that's it. And then obviously got people, they're testing themselves and they're finding something they are good at.
Yeah, so, exactly. And we've got a young boy. I'm not going to name him, but was severely autistic. He's 11 years old. He's had he's doing better at school now, but he nearly had to be taken out of mainstream school, that sort of thing. But he's come down here and he's worked really, really hard, and he's out boxing. He's a competitive, active, carded boxer now. Boxed on the dinner show, he won, and then he went and got changed into his suit with his bow tie on, and he sat around the table, and it was the best night of his life. You know, he's achieved something, he'll remember that forever.
And at 11 years old, not many people can do that.
I don't think so. I've always say this to them: if you can do this now, 10, 11, 12 years old or whatever age, you can come down to an amateur boxing club for long enough. A lot of people don't get through the door the first time. Then a lot of people don't come back the second time. A lot don't spar. They won't, you've come for long enough to get carded and box. Get in that ring, give it the best you can. It doesn't matter what the result is. Give it the best you can. I think at that age, I think you can go on and do anything outside of boxing in life. If you can achieve something like that, I think you can do anything.
Yeah, good lad. That's I love stories like that. And boxing's littered with stories like this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When people turn it around. Absolutely. And boxing's one of them sports you can lose badly, but still win.
Yeah, exactly.
If you come out and you've given it everything, it's one of those sports you're laying it all out there. It's
it's very fine lines. Yeah. It's very fine lines. You can lose a split decision somewhere. I think I always put this to my boxing. I think more people are trying to now. But there's that thing. A lot of, especially young kids, think that they're professionals. They don't watch any amateur boxing. They watch professional boxing, and they think that it's about keeping an unbeaten record and all that sort of thing. Amateur boxing is not about that. And they can't all be champions. They all get something out of it, but they can't all be champions. But if you've got a 50-50 record in amateur boxing, you're doing really well, because you're boxing every other week. Yeah. And you don't know anything about your opponent, and you're evenly matched, and the other guy's coming to win. And it's very fine lines. Half the ones you think you've lost, you could have won.
And you're learning in the ring as well,
exactly.
Ring IQ, where you don't know anything about them.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's with my matchmaking. I just try to keep them busy.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons we do so many shows, just to make sure they get out there and box. And I think it's helped the club. It's pushed us forward.
Yeah, certainly you see everyone coming through, and especially the amateur game, the programme. It's a lovely little club, yeah.
Thank you, yeah. We're proud of it, yeah. Very proud of it.
What a lovely way to finish the interview.
Thank you very much.
Is there anything you want to finish on at all? Anything you want to bring up? Or
anything I want to bring up? I think we've covered it all.
Yeah.
Gary.
Cheers, John. Guilford City, come and check them out. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Steve.